everybody.
Morning.
Welcome. We've come now on our journey of biblical interpretation to the great, maybe and not so great, therefore. There's a therefore. What does all this mean? Well, how do we put it together? What is the end goal of what we are doing? And so week number 10 is the therefore. And the therefore is that we're going to look at today in our finality of time together a proposed hermeneutical method. That's what we have been looking at now for 10 weeks. We're going to put it all together into one graphic screen to make sense of it all. We've been, over the course of 10 weeks, we've been looking at what I would call snapshots or snippets, different intersections, different things to approach and look at in regard to biblical interpretation. And I'm going to try to make sense of it. Hey, Paula. And so here we are. Interestingly enough, I believe biblical hermeneutics starts with you and I. And it starts with the idea of embracing the idea that each of us were born at a place in time here in the 21st century. Well, many of us were born in the 20th century, and we've now gone over into the 21st century. And because of that, we have a way of viewing reality. The way you and I view anything is the way that you and I view everything. And that has everything to do with how we look at the scriptures. So I began, rather than with the scriptures, I began with you and I, because we bring our lenses to those scriptures. Now, interlaced, rather, with this idea of lenses is the idea that how I view through my lenses myself, my role in the story, my place in the story. And because we are all from a Christian belief, we believe that we are what we call children of God, and that I embrace that. But we all have a perception of what that means. And how God thinks about me as we look at the scriptures and as we look at tradition, as we look at how others have viewed that, how God looks at me and how I think about me are really two different ideas. And as we mature through the process of transformation, becoming more and more into the image of Jesus Christ, as Paul states in Corinthians, what drops out of that is an innate security. We, in my mind, the human condition is we view ourselves as separate. And God views us as there's a wholeness. And as we embrace that idea, it will bolster security of relationship with each other and with God. And that's a wonderful thing, and I think that's the fruit of transformation, and it takes the better part of a lifetime. So this is the beginning pictures of what we looked at. You and I live in the now. It is today, November 17th, 2019. We are living in this room at this moment in the now. And my now, I can only speak about my now. I don't know about your now. But my now has holes in it. I've got gaps. I've got gaps of various sizes and shapes that are perceived in my head as need. I have needs, and you have, I'm going to assume, needs as well. And living in the now with these gaps in our lives is perceived as need, and that feeds into the picture of where we are at any given time. This, through this context, is how we go to the scriptures. And through going through the scriptures, through our lenses, we are looking into this ancient book that was compiled over a period of at least 2,500 years, the Old Testament being compiled in the post-exilic period after the fall to Babylon, in that period between the Testaments. And of course, the New Testament scriptures were completed around 400 AD. And so the scriptures were out there in pieces, but as far as a compilation, Old Testament around after 500 BC and the New Testament around 400 AD. And we look at this ancient document, this ancient book, in order to derive something that will feed into our need in the now. That is what the idea of Bible study, and that's why we talk about all of this stuff. And so we're, in a sense, engaging the past. We are engaging the past, the first step here. Then, because we spent weeks on this idea of the tricycle, I am bringing all of this to the picture, and that's why I put experience as the wheel. I'm bringing something to the text, and that's why I think experience drives the process. And then once we're in the process, we're working with the scripture, and I laid out 3 different models of interpretation. And we want to, in my opinion, I think the preferred model is where we honor the all of Scripture, but yet not everything is the same. And there is a prioritization of relevance at any given time, and that's what we came up with. We called it the engaged integration model. And so we look at that. And then we look at community, because we're part of something large and expansive. And we consult each other within our local community. We consult biblical writers and scholars through written material and online. And we consult the past community as far as within the tradition of the faith and what they have to say. And so this process is an integrated process of finding out what God is saying in the now for my moment in time. I call this process respecting the past. And I've actually given this term a definition. Respecting the past, in my mind, is equal to asking the why the Bible is saying what the Bible is saying about whatever the topic is, X, at its respective time and place. This is a critical thing to understand. So it's not, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say, like a recipe book? But rather, why is the Bible saying this at this particular juncture in this recorded history, and then deriving the truth out of the why behind the what? I hope that makes sense. That is what I call respecting the past. We honor the past, we respect the past by doing that process. And then, once we do that, we engage the past, we respect the past, and then what we do is reframe the past. We find the why behind the what in a particular given biblical text. And just like you would a valuable painting that is, or a valuable family photograph that's been on the wall, but the house has changed and the decor has changed, and that valuable photograph needs a new framing in order to fit into the modern decor. And that's what I mean by framing. We don't change the content, but we reframe it within our time and place. And that's why we reframe it, and then we bring it into the now to address it to the now. And in so doing, I'm transporting the truth, the wisdom behind what I study, and I'm bringing it into the now in order to address the gap in my life. And so engage the past, respect the past, reframing the past, and then finally transporting the past. And there's one more step, and that step is this, that now this informs my future and informs my experience, and the process continues throughout. This then, right here, this then is how I frame biblical interpretation at this juncture in my life. This then is our proposed method to you. And It is in my mind, a privilege and a sacred responsibility that has gone on through all ages and in all times. And now we get to do this. And it's demonstrating the application of wisdom. And that is it. That is it. And there we are as writers, interpreters, happy writing, and it's been a great pleasure. Thank you.